Okay, this is the answer key for your practice test, your practice quiz. You are using the video to check your work. So let's go ahead and get into this and find the perimeter of each figure below. Perimeter means the outside edges all added together. So here's something you may not have known. This is called a parallelogram. It says it right here, parallelogram, and what you should know about parallelograms is the opposite sides are the same length. So from here all the way to this edge of this side is 2 and 3, which is a grand total of 5. And if this side is equal to 5, then that means this side over here is also equal to 5. Now, the problem is we don't know either of these. This 7, by the way, is your packet page number. It's not part of the problem. So we know the two sides, but we don't know the top or the bottom. So here's the other information that's going to come in handy. They give us that this is 3. And what I notice is this is a right triangle. So if I cover up the bottom and I'm only looking at the 3 and the 2, I can see that this is a right triangle with legs of 2 and 3. So if we can find the hypotenuse of this right triangle, then we know that it's going to be the same length as the bottom one. So I am going to add, to get my Pythagorean theorem, or using the Pythagorean theorem, I'm going to add the leg length squared to equal the hypotenuse squared. So I'm going to do 2 squared plus 3 squared to equal my c squared side. So 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 plus 9 is 13, and I know that that's not the final answer. I need to square root it to get what c is about. The square root of 13 is about 3.6. So if it's 3.6, I'm going to get rid of that c. I'm going to call that 3.6. That means this down here is also 3.6. So I need to add 5 plus 3.6 plus 5 plus 3.6. So the perimeter is 5 plus 3.6 plus 5 plus 3.6. Perimeter equals whatever that total is. So 5 plus 3.6 plus 5 plus 3.6, and that is 17.2. So 17.2 centimeters is the perimeter around that parallelogram. Okay, the shape here is a right triangle. This one's very simple. All we're doing is finding the hypotenuse, the missing longest side. So again, I'm going to add. So I'm going to do 6 squared plus 10 squared equals my hypotenuse squared. 6 squared is 36, 10 squared is 100, 36 plus 100 is 136. So then I'm going to square root that. Again, if I'm going way too fast, you should definitely stop, pause the video whenever you need to, and try it on your own or catch up. The square root of 136 is about 11 point, we're going to call that 7 because this next one's going to bump up the 6 to a 7. So about 11.7, this is meters. Oh, nope, we're still doing perimeter. I about circled that final answer. So this is 11.7, and if we're finding perimeter, we need to do 6 plus 10 plus 11.7 because that's the whole distance around it. 6 plus 10 plus 11.7. So the perimeter equals 6 plus 10 plus 11.7, 27.7 meters. All right, the next page of your practice test is a word problem, it looks like. Oh, and once again, you're going west, and this time you're going south. That's different. So you're going to go west and then south. So let's say here's your house. Okay. Just kidding. The park is 4 miles west. The park is 4 miles west. Here is the park. And it's 4 miles west. Great. Your house, you walk 4 miles to go to a park. HMS is 3 miles south of the park. So 3 miles south of the park is HMS. How far is your house from HMS? So the diagonal from your house to HMS, round to the nearest tenth. Okay, again, this is a right triangle because if you turn from walking straight west to straight south, that's going to make a right angle. So the diagonal distance across is your longest side, that's your hypotenuse, and the 4 and the 3 would be the legs. So that means you're going to add to find the hypotenuse. So I would do 4 squared plus 3 squared to equal your hypotenuse squared. So 4 squared is 16, 3 squared is 9, 16 plus 9 is 25. I love this because I know it's going to come out evenly because the square root of 25 is a whole number. Square root of 25 is 5. So that means it is 5 miles, and the whole rounding to the nearest tenth didn't even need to happen. Okay, number 4 says you ride your bike along the outer edge of a park. I'm assuming that's this. Then you take a shortcut back. Find the length of the shortcut. Okay, this is exactly like number 3. It gave you the 2 legs. You're trying to find the hypotenuse. Even though it says shortcut, it's a shortcut because you don't have to go back 60 and then plus 100. You can cut across, but it's not the short side. It's actually the longest side. This is your right angle. So the shortcut is your hypotenuse. So I'm going to add the 2 leg lengths. I'm going to square them first and then add them. So 100 squared plus 60 squared is equal to our C squared side. 100 squared is 10,000. 60 squared is 3,600. Sure, we already knew all that. And when you add them together, you have 13,600. All right, then the last step is we're going to square root that to find out what the shortcut is. And since we're rounding to the nearest tenth, we're going to put 13,600 square root in your calculator, and you're going to get 116.6. So about 116.6, that would be meters, I think. Okay, numbers 5 and 6 are those problems where you have to tell if it's a right triangle or not. So remember, if you're using the Pythagorean Theorem, a squared plus b squared will exactly equal c squared if it's a right triangle. If it's not, it will not exactly equal. So you have to decide, and that's not 5.8, by the way, that's problem number 5, problem number 6. So you have to decide which of these is the longest to make your c. So you've got 8, 11.5, and 8.5. So obviously 11.5 has to be the C, and then the A and the B don't matter. I'll make that A and that B. So I will say 8 squared plus 8.5 squared, and we'll see if it exactly equals 11.5 squared or not. 8 squared is 64. 8.5 squared is 72.25. 11.5 squared, 11.5 squared is 132.25. Okay, let's add these two together and see if it exactly equals 132.25. So I've got 64 plus 72.25. That equals 136.25, which is close, but not exact. It's 132.25, not 136.25. So that was very close. So I bet some of you accidentally might have put yes. But 136.5 does not equal, should I put 11.5 in one more time and double check? Yeah, 132.25. So it's close, but it does not equal, which means no, this cannot possibly be a right triangle. All right, number 6, the longest side is 23, so that has to be my C. The other two could be A and B, B and A, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to check and see if 14 squared plus 19 squared exactly equals 23 squared or not. 14 squared is 196. 19 squared is 361. And 23 squared is 529. All right, so let me add 196 plus 361. 196 plus 361. That equals 557. So 557 and 529 are definitely not equal. So once again, usually you have a yes and a no, but that's not always the case. This one is a no and a no. These cannot possibly be right triangle lengths. Okay. Number 7, you've got another distance problem on a coordinate graph. So remember, you're trying to count the diagonal distance, and in order to do that, you have to give it legs. So give it legs that make up an exact right angle. You could have either done this one that I chose to do, or you could have done the one above. It doesn't matter. They're going to end up giving you the same answer as long as your line was straight. Okay, so I'm going to then count the length of this leg and count the length of this leg. But unfortunately, you cannot count the diagonal because they don't take up whole exact boxes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 across the bottom leg, and 1, 2, 3, 4 across the side leg. So the two legs are going to be squared and added to find the D, which is the hypotenuse. So 6 squared plus 4 squared equals D squared. 6 squared is 36. 4 squared is 16. 36 plus 16 is 52. You're going to take 52 and square root it. Square root of 52 is about 7.2. So you should have said it's about 7.2 units or whatever for the distance. Okay, number 8 says find the height, which is x, of this, I don't know, tower, some kind of a tower, water tower, I don't know, grain tower, and then round to the nearest tenth. So we're missing this time a leg because this clearly makes a right angle and you have the hypotenuse, which is the longest side. So this time I'm going to subtract to find my missing leg length. So I'm going to take the hypotenuse 60 squared and I'm going to subtract the 50 squared to try to find the missing leg length, x. So 60 squared is 3,600. 50 squared is 2,500. And that equals x squared. So we are going to subtract 3,600 minus 2,500. And that's going to equal 1,100. And remember, that's what x squared is, so we still need to square root it in the last step. The square root of 1,100, oops, that's not 1,100. Square root of 1,100 is 33 that one is going to be bumped up to a 2. So 33.2. And that's yards, and that's rounded to nearest tenth. Okay. Looks like we have one last problem, and it's that 3D box again. So it wants to know what the length is of the diagonal that cuts from that top corner three-dimensionally through the box to the bottom front corner. So again, in order to do that, you're going to have to do the Pythagorean Theorem twice. So the first one you're going to do is just across the bottom. So we need to come up with, you should see a rectangle down here. We need to cut it diagonally in order to come up with what's going to end up being the bottom of that. So we need to cut it diagonally back this way. I hope you guys are able to see this. So all I want right now is I want you to think about the box that's sitting on the bottom part of the box. And out of the bottom part of the box, I am looking at this triangle kind of on the left side, and I know that this is a right angle. So if this is the right angle and we have 8 as one of the legs, and you would have 6 back here because it's the same length as the 6 over here. So this back length over here would be 6. I have an 8 by 6 flat on the bottom 2 legs, and I'm trying to find the hypotenuse cut flat along that. So I'm going to do 8 squared plus 6 squared to find that first diagonal. So if your brain can kind of see just this part, you should be able to kind of stay with me for now. 8 squared is 64, 6 squared is 36, 64 plus 36 is 100. I already love this problem because I know, and so do you, that the square root of 100 is 10. So this diagonal down across the bottom is 10. Okay, now let's let your brain look at it this way. Now I want you to look at this three-dimensional cut. And do you see, I hope, maybe if I cover it up, do you see the triangle there? Coming from the back leg is the back corner, the diagonal that we just now added in, and the three-dimensional diagonal up here that we're trying to find. So this is a new right triangle where the box is here. The right angle, sorry, the 90-degree angle is here. So we have a leg length now of 10. When we solved it, it was our hypotenuse. But now that we're looking at a different triangle, our leg is 10, and our height, our other leg, is the same as this leg, which is 5. So right back here, this one is 5. So we have a 10 leg and a 5 leg, and we're once again looking for a new hypotenuse. So this would be the C. So I'm going to square 5 and 10 and add them. So 5 squared plus 10 squared is going to equal our new hypotenuse. 5 squared is 25. 10 squared is 100. 25 plus 100 is 125. And then you're going to square root that. It's not going to come out exactly evenly. Square root of 125, sorry, you can't see that, there's a glare, is 11 point, that 1 is going to be bumped up because of the 8 to a 2. So 11.2. So 11.2, it says millimeters, so this would be millimeters. And that is the length of that. Sometimes it's a pencil, sometimes it's just a diagonal that cuts through the box.